Hi, this is Adolph Oliver, and this video is about multiplying polynomials. Well, there are a number of different ways to do it depending on what you've got. If you're multiplying by a single term into one or more terms, then you can use our old friend distributive law. So whatever's out in front here, the minus 3x, that monomial, turn around and just distribute it into both of the guys inside. Okay, well, negative 3 times negative 2 equals positive 6, and then x times x is x squared. Here's our first term. Then negative 3 times plus 4 is negative 12, and we have a single x. Now, double check that. Negative 3 times negative 2 gives me positive 6. Put the plus if you want or leave it off. X times x is x squared. To get the second term, got to hit everybody inside. Negative 3 times positive 4 is negative 12. And then there's only a single x. Now, by the way, notice this. All told here, the way this guy's originally written, that's a single term because these separators don't count. They're inside grouping symbols. But what I did just a moment ago was pull this one on you here, and I could say, what is inside this parents? So if I say, just look at inside the parents, we assume that the parents and everything else are gone, then this separator does count, and there are two terms inside. So we can often voice that and say how many terms there are inside a grouping symbol. Well, let's go on. Now, we're going to learn some shortcuts coming up for multiplying binomials together. But whenever you have one of the polynomials being a trinomial or larger, one or more of them, then those shortcuts don't work. And there are basically two methods. Vertical multiplication and the box method. Now, vertical multiplication, just show an example over here. Remember, if we had two numbers to multiply together in basic math, let's say 231 times 42, what I would have done is I would have written the larger number on top, the smaller number on the bottom, and then, of course, this is our old little multiplication x here. We, of course, use that for lots of other things in algebra. But remember, what you did is you took the rightmost place down here, the 2, and multiplied each of the guys up above. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 2 is 4. Then move over to the next place. The 4 is in the tens place, and multiply each above. And, of course, we put the next partial product underneath this, starting in the tens place. So 1 times 4 is 4, 4 times 3 is 12, carry the 1, 2 times 4 is 8, and 1 is 9. So what we had then were these two partial products, and we lined them up by place value. Well, what we're going to do here, of course, is similar. Follow the same pattern, and we'll add the partial products to get the final answer like you would here. What I'm going to do is put the largest guy on top again. So 3x squared minus x minus 4. And then right underneath them, 2x plus 1. Now, this works particularly nice if you've got everybody in descending order. So that's what we have here. Now, multiply first by the rightmost term, plus 1. Well, that's easy to multiply by. Plus 1 times negative 4, negative 4. Plus 1 times negative x, simply negative x. Plus 1 times 3x squared, well, that's just 3x squared. Okay, now we've multiplied everybody by that first term on the right. So now move over to the next. Now, the difference here is we line them up under like terms. Okay, so 2x times negative 4 is negative 8x. Here's my x column, so I write underneath it negative 8x. That's going to make it easy for us to combine to get the final answer. Moving over, 2x times negative x is going to be negative 2x squared. Okay, line that up in the x squared column. Now we still have 1 to go. 2 times 3 is 6, and x times x squared is x cubed. So you just move over and make a new column here for x cubed. So notice I multiplied everybody by the plus 1 here. Got my first partial product, as it's called. Then I moved over to the 2x, multiplied everybody by that, but lined them up under like columns, and if we had a new column with a higher power, just move over to the left. Well, if you've done a good job in this, then getting the final answer here is simple. Each of the columns just adds to itself, so you can go either direction you want. Negative 4 here. The x's, I got negative 1 and negative 8. That's negative 9x. Remember, when you combine your partial products, just like you did up here in basic math, what you do now is you go through and you add those guys. Okay, 3x squared minus 2x squared gives me plus 1x squared, and I could just write that as x squared. You could put a plus, or put the 1 if you want. You have to put the plus because it's not the leading guy, but you could leave the 1 off. Well, the 6x cubed, there's nobody to combine with, so there it is. So there's my answer, doing it by vertical multiplication. Now, in recent years, the box method has been gaining in popularity, and you might figure that, hey, with a name like that, it has something to do with boxes, and you're absolutely right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the same problem we had back up here, this guy, and we're going to multiply it doing the box method. Okay, so what I'm going to do down here then is make myself a box. Here it comes. I'm going to put the longest guy on top, so I'll make the box a little bit longer like this. Here it is. Okay, and so I've got on top plus 3x squared minus x minus 4. On the side, I've got plus 2x plus 1. Now, what you have to do is, for the guys on the side, divide the box so they each have their own row. And for the guys on top, divide the box so they've each got their own column. We're going to fill up all the boxes and then combine those to get our final answer. Well, here's what happens. When you set it up like this, it's just like distributive law now. You take the guy out in front and multiply each of the guys on top. Put the answer in the box. Plus 2 times plus 3 is plus 6, and I've got x cubed. Plus 2x times negative x minus 2x squared. Plus 2x minus 4, negative 8x. Okay, now go down and fill in the next boxes by multiplying by the guy out in front here. So plus 1 times plus 3 is going to give me plus 3x squared. Plus 1 times negative x is going to give me negative x. And plus 1 times negative 4 gives me negative 4. Now what you have to do is combine all the guys in the boxes. The like terms tend to be on diagonals here, so that's why I always like to circle these before I start putting the answer together. Remember, you can't just leave it as the box. You've got to come up with your final answer. Now, notice there's only one 6x cubed. You start from the top left and work the bottom right here. So I'm going to have 6x cubed all by itself. There it is. Now, the x squareds, okay, I've got them circled here. Plus 3 minus 2 is just plus 1, so I could just write that as plus x squared. You can put the 1 if you want to. Then the x's to the first power, I've got them circled. Negative 1x, negative 8x is a total of negative 9x. And then the plain number by itself minus 4. Well, notice, got the same answer by both methods or either method. So you can do something like this, doing vertical multiplication, like our old basic math, or use the box method. Okay, vertical multiplication, you've got all the like terms lined up, so it's easy to get the final answer. Box method, you fill in the boxes. That might be a little easier to begin with, but then you've got to combine like terms to get the final answer. Either way, you're doing all the same work. If you look at all the terms here in the partial products of vertical multiplication, you'll see exactly the same matching terms in the boxes right here. So it just depends whether you like boxes or you don't. Well, now let's look at some examples going in here. So first off, a little practice with the good old distributive law here. And remember, anytime we've got a monomial here out in front of somebody in parens, and it can have one or more terms, you simply distribute in. Negative 2 times 5, negative 10, and there's a single x, so negative 10x. The next guy, the positive 3x, distribute it in. There's only one guy in here, so 3 times negative 10 equals negative 30. But I got an x in front times the x squareds. That's a total of x cubed. Okay, now down a little further here. Got the negative 4 in front. We distribute that in to both of them inside. We got two terms inside now. The first one, negative 4 times negative 6, is positive 24. I'll put the plus to rub it in there. You could leave the plus off. There's only a single variable, just y to the first power. Going over to the second guy inside, be sure you hit each of them. Negative 4 times plus 5, negative 20. Okay, well, you're not always going to have whole numbers. You'll have decimals and fractions, so let's look at the fraction guy first here. Here we go. We got 1/4 out front, and we got to be multiplying everybody inside. So this is officially a plus. I can put that there just to remind myself. Plus and minus give me minus. Now 1 times 16 upstairs, 4 times 20 downstairs. So 16 over 20. We'll come back and reduce that in a moment. Okay, hit the second guy. Plus and minus give me minus again. 1 times 11 upstairs is 11. Downstairs 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, well, you just multiply the fractions. Here we are. But now, be aware, okay, where you can do any reducing, a 4 will go into both 16 and 20. So 4 goes into 16 4 times. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So our final answer, the correct one, reduced, and you are required to do this, negative 4/5 x minus 11/16. Okay, now let's go down and take a look here. It doesn't make any difference whether you're distributing nice whole numbers or integers, or whether you got fractions or decimals. It all works the same way. So here we go. Okay, well, to get this first answer, remember that the guy inside didn't have a sign, so we assume plus, and the same with the guy outside. Now the first thing we're going to do is take 0.4 times 2.9. Well, you might want to off on the side here. Just work that. 2.9 times 0.4. 4 times 9 is 36. Carry a 3. 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 is 11. And we need 1, 2 decimal places. So this would come out to be here then as a number 1.1. Here we go. And then we got y cubed times 1 more y. so y to the fourth. Okay, well, let's see what we got coming up in the last guy here. Plus and minus is minus. 4 times 7 is 28, but we do need 2 decimal places, so 0.28, and we add the y cubed from out in front. Well, okay, there's some distributive law. Now, let's remind you about doing both vertical multiplication and the box method. So once again, I'm just going to demonstrate both of them to you here on one problem. Here again, when we're going to have to use box or multiple or vertical multiplication is whenever we have a binomial that has more than 2 terms. There are no shortcuts that do this, but here we go. Let's do vertical multiplication first. Okay, so what I'm going to do is write the longest guy up on top here. So minus 2a squared plus 6a plus 1. Write the shorter guy underneath, minus 7a minus 5. Now, why I put the shorter guy underneath is he's the one that tells me how many partial products I'm going to get, and we usually like to, minimize that. Getting more terms in one of them is fine, but have less partial products, so that's why you put the larger guy on top, smaller guy on the bottom. Now you want both these guys in descending order. They are. So now take the guy in the far right here in the bottom, negative 5, and multiply everybody up above. Negative 5 times plus 1 is negative 5. Negative 5 times plus 6 is negative 30, and there is an a. Negative 5 times negative 2, positive 10. I'll put a plus to rub it in. And then just the a squareds. Okay, we've multiplied by the negative 5. Now go over and multiply by the next guy, negative 7a. And again, hit each of the guys up above, but write it down underneath the like terms. Negative 7a times plus 1 is negative 7a, and here's my a column, so I'll write it right there. The next, negative 7 times plus 6 is negative 42, but I got 8 times a is a squared, so negative 42 a squared. Now, I'm going to get an a cubed, so I'll make a new column. Negative 7 times negative 2 is positive 14, and a times a squared is a cubed. Now, again, the nice thing about the vertical method is that you've got everybody lined up in like terms, so it's real easy to add them. Remember, you do your multiplying to get the partial products, but after that, you add and subtract, as we often call it, combine, to get your answer. Well, negative 30 and negative 7 more is negative 37a. Let's see, the a squared, positive 10, but negative 42. Negative's going to win by what? 32, I guess. Negative 32 a squared. And then the guy out in front, nobody to combine him with, so just write him down. Since he's positive, we could leave off the plus. Well, that's the vertical. Now, let's do the same thing with the box. Okay, so here we go. Let's make ourselves up a box. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to write the larger guy up on top. Negative 2a squared plus 6a, and then plus 1. The smaller guy on the side, negative 7a, and then negative 5. Now, each of the terms on the side, you have to split the box across so they each have their own row. And the guys on top, you have to split the box coming down so they each have their own column. Now what we have to do, of course, is fill in all those boxes and then combine them to be able to get our final score on this. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay, here we go. Now remember, once you got the box set, it's just like distributive law. Take the guy out in front, multiply each of the guys on top, and put that answer in the box below it. Negative 7 times negative 2 is positive 14. And I got a times a squared, a cubed. Okay, negative 7 times positive 6, negative 42. A times a is a squared. And then negative 7a times plus 1, well, that's just negative 7a. Okay, going down to the next row. We multiply everybody on top by negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 2 is positive 10a squared. Negative 5 times positive 6, okay, is going to be negative 30. And let's see, what do we have here? Just a single a. And then negative 5 times plus 1, well, that's just negative 5. Now, we got all the boxes full. Notice again that if you have the polynomials written in descending order along the top and down the side, then your highest power is in the top left, lowest in the bottom right. So you're going to put it together from top left to lower right. But on the diagonals are where your like terms tend to be. So there's the a squareds, and here's just the a's. Okay, let's combine this then to get our final answer here. Here it comes. 14a cubed. I'm putting it in descending order. You could put the plus in front or leave it off. Now we're into the a squareds. Minus 42 plus 10, negative 32a squared. Now we're down into the a to the first power. Now remember, this was a minus here. So the a's, I got negative 7 and negative 30. That's a total of negative 37a. And then, of course, the minus 5 on the end. Well, once again, you get the same answer either way you go here. You should be familiar with both of these methods, but you may have your favorite. But nonetheless, know how to do it either way.